Would you like to try painting rocks but don't know where to start? Do you lack confidence in your drawing or painting skills? Or are you struggling to get an end result you are happy with? Hey everyone, welcome to my channel. My name's Nairi and my aim is to help you improve your art skills so you can create painted rocks that you are proud of. In today's video, I'm going to be showing you how I created this number 3 rainbow rock. I'll take you through the whole process step by step, so let's get started. First off, you're going to need a rock. For this design, you can literally select any shape and size rock that you like. You'll need white acrylic paint and a flat brush for applying the base coat, a pencil and eraser for a quick sketch up of what you're going to be painting, and an assortment of bright coloured acrylic paint colours. I've used Uni Posca paint pens. The colours I've used in this one are listed below in the description. I tend to use a mixture of PC3M and PC5M thickness paint pens. I also use a fine black paint pen and a fine white paint pen. Both of these are Uni Posca PC1MR thickness. This is as fine a pen as you can get in the Uni Posca range. And finally, you'll need a sealer. The first thing you're going to need is a rock, which I buy from my local landscaping supply or hardware store. For this design, you can select any shape and size rock that you like. When selecting a rock for painting, if you can find one that has both a smooth surface and a flat face, this will make drawing your design onto the rock and painting it much easier. Step 2 is preparing the rock for painting. There are two things to do when you are preparing a rock. First, give it a quick wash in warm soapy water. I just use dishwashing liquid and a kitchen scouring pad and then rinse it off and leave it to dry. Once your rock is dry, I recommend applying 2 base coats of white acrylic paint. This is not essential, but it will make your colours much more vibrant. For this design, I base coat the entire front face of the rock and I use a flathead brush as this gives you the best result, as it helps to spread the paint smoothly, giving you a nice finish. Before you start applying your base coat, make sure your rock isn't hot from sitting in the sun to dry, as this makes the paint dry too quickly and will limit the amount of time you have to spread and smooth out the paint. Finally, it is really important to let your base coat dry completely before moving on to the design. Step 3 is drawing the design onto the rock. For any design, regardless of how easy it is, I'd recommend doing a quick sketch on paper first to get familiar with it. This design really doesn't have any drawing as such. Rather, getting it to look good is more about even spacing of all the horizontal rainbow coloured lines and the positioning of the number on the rock. So I'm going to talk through some different ways you can approach this. So the first thing you're going to need to do is draw 7 equally spaced horizontal lines for each of your rainbow colours. There are a couple of ways you can do this. If you're pretty confident, I'd recommend putting a mark on your vertical midpoint, and then you know you need 3.5 colour sections on either side of that. If you are not confident doing this freehand, then another method is to get a ruler and measure the vertical length of your rock. Then divide that length by 7. For example, if your rock has a 63mm vertical length, then 63mm divided by 7 equals 9mm, so each colour of your rainbow will need 9mm. Now that you have an exact measure of how large each colour segment should be, you can measure with your ruler and mark in where the horizontal line should be. I've used a ruler on the paper drawing to draw the horizontal lines in, but in reality on a rock, whilst you can mark with a ruler each 9mm spacing, you will need to freehand draw each line. The next thing you need to do is draw on your number. I'd recommend drawing a horizontal line that splits the second segment from the top in half, and a horizontal line that splits the second segment from the bottom in half, simply because the end result will look much better if the top and bottom of the number end midway through a colour. So these lines will provide a guide for the top and bottom edges of your number and ensure it is positioned vertically centred on the rock. You'll also want to make sure your number is positioned horizontally centred. For single digit numbers from 1 to 9, measure and mark the horizontal centre of your rock. Then measure an equal distance to both the left and the same distance from the centre to the right, and draw vertical lines at these points. This will provide a guide for the width of your number and ensure it is positioned horizontally centered on the rock. You can select any width from the center that you like the look of, as the size of the rock you are painting will influence what looks best. To give you an example, however, my rock is 58mm wide and the number is 30mm wide, so I measured 15mm either side of the horizontal center point. I've painted this rock for my daughter's 3rd birthday party, but you may want to make this rock for any age, so for double-digit numbers, say from 10 to 99, again measure and mark the horizontal center of your rock. You will want a small gap between your numbers. I'd recommend just 4mm, so you will want to draw a vertical line 2mm to the left of the horizontal center point and a vertical line 2mm to the right of the horizontal center point. From these 2mm to the left of center and 2mm to the right of center lines, you will want to measure an equal distance both to the left from the left point for the first number and to the right from the right point for the second number. Again, you can select any width for your numbers that you like, but in this example that I've drawn, the rock is about 80mm wide and each number is 25mm wide. Once you're happy drawing your design on paper, repeat the same steps directly onto your rock. The next step is to get on and start painting the rock. This is a really quick and easy rock to paint. All the colours are solid block colours with no shading. I always like to start by using a white paint pen to cover any pencil markings I don't want. Whilst Uni Posca paint pens are quite opaque, I find with some of the lighter colours like yellow, bright yellow and apple green that the pencil lines can show through. So using a white paint pen to cover up any pencil markings at the start means less work later on. Next, start applying your rainbow colours. I like to work from the background to the foreground when painting, and as you can see, I've painted every second colour so that each colour has time to dry before I paint the colour directly adjoining it. I'm doing this just to reduce the likelihood of the paint pen colours bleeding into each other if they are not completely dry. Make sure you apply at least 2 coats of each colour to ensure they are bright, even and vibrant. You might find you need 3 coats of yellow and green, as I find these colours tend to have less opacity. When applying a second or third coat, make sure you have pumped your paint pen on paper first to get good paint flow, and then press lightly on the rock when applying. This will ensure you are less likely to lift off any of the first coat. But if you find your pen is lifting off a bit of the first coat, try dotting the paint on over this area rather than dragging the nib across it. The next step is to tidy up the white letters with white paint pen. You might need to do a couple of coats of white to cover any pencil markings. I have used a PC1MR pen so that I could tidy up the edges of the number. The finer tip gives you more accuracy. The next step is to use your white paint pen to randomly apply different sized polka dots over the rainbow colours. I'd usually use a PC 5M pen thickness to do this, but mine ran out partway through applying these polka dots, so I switched to my PC 1MR pen. The fine pen is not ideal, but it was the only other white paint pen I had at the time. Again, apply a second coat to these white dots, or as many coats as are required to get them white, crisp and bright. If your paint pen nib gets dirty, just scribble on a sheet of paper for a couple of seconds until it flows cleanly again. Finally, I use a black PC 1MR paint pen to outline my number. The final step is to seal your rock. Before you put your rock outside in the elements, or inside for that matter, you will want to make sure your paint is protected by applying a sealer. I use an exterior grade spray varnish. These should ideally be non-yellowing and have UV stabilizers. Before applying, ensure your paint is completely dry. Then I like to apply 2 coats of a gloss varnish over all painted areas. Make sure you apply the sealant outside where you are well ventilated and have a clean, dry, non-fluffy drop cloth underneath. If you can apply light coats, this will avoid the varnish from running. And that's it! If you've enjoyed this video and want to see more, please click the like and subscribe buttons below.